Forbes Books presents The Sky's the Limit with host Dee Brown, the president and CEO of the P3 Group, the nation's largest minority, public, private partnership real estate developer. Here's Dee.
I'm honored to be joined by a member of hip-hop royalty. He's a legendary music mogul, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. He has so much to talk about, and we have so little time, so let's get into it. Percy Miller, aka Master P, welcome to The Sky's the Limit.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey, thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Before we get started with the interview, I do want to just take a personal note to just ask you how you and your family have been doing since the pandemic. I know you're from New Orleans, which is one of my favorite places to visit, but I want to check in and just make sure everybody's doing well.
Yeah, everybody's doing well, and we have a restaurant in New Orleans called Big Papa's. It's one of the most famous restaurants, and it's doing well. We back open, and it's a blessing. I feel like this pandemic, it was a curse and a blessing, and we making the best out of it, and we thankful to be alive. I think that's the most important thing. You could get money back, but you can't get time back. So the pandemic has also given us a lot of time to spend with our loved ones and appreciate just life.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. From a business perspective,
Yes.
it actually has enhanced our business. It allowed us to start thinking outside the box. It seemed like with every challenge that we face, it also create opportunity for those of us who have the ingenuity to take advantage of it. And I know we have so much to talk about and so little time, so let's get to it and go beyond the deal.
Yes.
I want to start off by asking you, I know that highly successful people all seem to have that pivotal moment in our life where one decision can change the rest of our life. And yours seemingly happened back in the 90s when you turned down a huge offer to sell your record label. That decision not to sell your label led to you building your empire. Do you ever think back on that day and wonder what would your life be like if you had taken that deal?
Yeah, I mean, if I'd taken that deal, I would have been an artist. I'd probably be a platinum artist. But, during that time, a lot of the artists really wasn't making revenue off of their projects. That was the change that I seen, that we needed to be able to really take care of families. And the only way I was going to do that is through ownership and create my own brand and my own company, which I created, No Limit Records. And the deal that was offered to me, it was a bad deal. I would have got $1 million, but that's all I would have received. And I want people to understand that no deal is too big. I know growing up in poverty, coming from the struggle, everybody think $1 million. $1 million to what somebody gonna make off of you. So imagine that's pennies to what these companies was gonna make off of me. What I was able to do as a young person, making Forbes top 40, Fortune under 40, which is incredible at that time, coming from the ghetto, knowing that I would never did that if I had signed that deal. And I never would be able to have the sustainability that I have now and be able to feed not only my family, but so many other families. I was able to create so many other millionaires. And I know I just would have had an artist deal, and that's what my career would have ended at.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that I see with people that aren't able to judge their self-worth, they can't differentiate between how to really assign a value to their skills and talent.
Yes.
And obviously you had that skill set, right? So when did you grasp the concept? What light bulb went off in your head to make you realize that, hey, I'm worth more than what they're trying to give me? Because I've seen you and heard you talk about this particular topic before.
Yeah, I looked at the Michael Jordan deal, and I remember that he had got $1 million and he had sold all his rights away. And my grandfather always told me, never do a deal when you're desperate. And I realized that we never really owned anything. And the key to my success, me being independent and the whole ownership thing, it was the only way that I knew that I could make some change to either help, my family and get out the situation. Because I grew up in a household with 16 people in a 3-bedroom project, but I never felt like I was doing bad. I never used negative language like I'm poor, I'm broke. I always thought to myself that one day I'm gonna make it out here. I'm gonna be all right. I feel like the negative words that you use, it really stop you from getting to where you need to go at. And I just realized that I had nothing to lose. I'm at the bottom of life, but I didn't choose this. But if I work hard, I can get out of this. So I had to know my self value. And I tell people all the time, you have to know your work. There's no way that all these artists has been working for these companies. Nobody has really been a boss, and people really didn't understand that word because being a boss take a lot of sacrifices. I was just blessed, man. To be honest with you, I put my trust and faith in God, and I knew that if I keep working, one day, if I hold on to what I have, I can change this situation for me and my family.
That's very inspirational. I come from an impoverished community.
Yes.
Where everything around me was really hopelessness.
Yes.
There were a handful of successful people in the community that you could look up to, but obviously none that were operating at the level that I wanted to be at in life.
Yeah.
And so if we kind of take that walk back in time, and you brought up back when you were staying in New Orleans 3rd Ward, 16
Yes.
family members in a single apartment.
Yes.
Were there any inspirational figures around you, or that you saw maybe on television that helped instill hope in you that, hey, I can get out of these conditions?
Yeah, I looked at Muhammad Ali, Michael Jackson. Those type of people gave me hope and let me know that you could come from this condition and you could make it out. A black man actually can be successful. My grandparents, my grandfather fought in the Vietnam War, and he just instilled so much value in me. He was a strong man, and I catered my company behind him with the camouflage, the army fatigues.
Right.
And my grandmother, like, she just was a strong woman, big mama. So big mama and big daddy, those people made sure I went to school. People don't realize education is the most important part because everybody thinks it's about money. Even though I didn't have money, I was educated. My grandmother made sure I went to school, made sure I got my work done. I was an A student. Even though I was living in poverty, I kept wanting to learn, kept wanting to educate myself. And I think that was the difference with me, because everybody around me, they didn't value the education system. Everybody just wanted nice things. And I think that's where my longevity came in at, where I was taught at an early age why education is so important. I was the first to go to college, which my grandmother was like, you going to college. I don't care what you say, you are going to college. You're going to do good in school, and you're not going to play basketball unless you have good grades. And I grew up as from middle school on, I love basketball, I love sports. People don't realize the music part came secondary. My grandparents are not here no more, but I know they would have been proud of me this week getting a doctor's degree at Lincoln University, which nobody has accomplished anything of that magnitude in our family. And I'm just blessed. I'm blessed that they instilled in me education is so important, because I'm still even though I'm a successful entrepreneur, I'm still a student of the game. Even though I'm a teacher, I'm still learning. I'm still a student of business. I'm still trying to understand how can I make my business better? How can I create better avenues for me and my family? So that's the part, I think, that even though you could be a great teacher, you always got to be a great student. And that's what my grandparents instilled in me.
Well, I think you hit some very, very key points from a business perspective. And I think for the young entrepreneurs that are out there listening, that are trying to find their way, I think you said it and summed it up best. We're forever students of our crafts, right? We're always trying to learn, refine our processes, and take our game to the next level. Because the reality of it is that, especially as African Americans, we do have to always be at the very, very top of our game, right? Just to have that equal seat at the table. And so
we have to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Just being African American, Latino, or minorities. That's what we need to understand. We always talk about what we don't have and where we come from. Like, I realize that I can't change the past, but I can change the future. And that's why education is so important. We have to stop praying for money and start praying for wisdom. And that's what I pray for. I pray for wisdom and knowledge. The money
Right.
come and go. If you're an entrepreneur, you could have 100 million one week, you could have $10 the next week. And you can go back in there and get back on the horse and keep running. And it's a marathon and not stopping and chase your dreams and your goals. But you have to have a plan of action. And I tell people all the time, like, even you look at us where we are as a race, we look at the top CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. We only make up a tenth of 1%. You don't
Right.
see that many African Americans when you look at Forbes, Fortune 500, and you see these companies. You might see one or two African Americans. We have to change that narrative. We graduate more women out of HBCUs than any other university. And where are these females that should be running these companies? So that's why I work hard for the diversity to change that. Into the only way we're going to change that is through economic empowerment. That's why we create business, and we want to see other millionaires and multi-millionaires and billionaires. We want to keep creating that and building. So for me, I have product. I have all kind of product, but my thing is, I don't just want to see my product into these grocery stores or into these supermarkets. I want to see thousands of us with product. So now they can't stop us. If you look at, we thought that Aunt your mom and Uncle Ben was owned by us, and when we found out, we have to do something about this. And I'm
Right.
saying the only way we're going to change the injustice that's going on in our culture is through economic empowerment. It's not marching in the streets. We have to have a real plan of action. The plan of action is we have to create more business, own more product, buy more property. And the only way we could do that is through ownership. And that's the way we create economic empowerment. Now we get a seat at the table. And now we're able to put more African American judges, Congress people into office. And now we have a chance to voice our opinion. Even when you look at the judicial system of the police department, it's good cops and bad cops. The only reason that we can't do what we need to do, we have no ownership. We have no rights. And we have to change that through education to even take out the bad cops from the police department. Then you have to be able to say, okay, I have property in this community. I want to voice my opinion. We want people from our community that know us to make that change. I tell my people all the time, we don't know the laws. We think we know the laws. We think we know our rights, but we're not educated to that. So once
Right.
we start educating ourselves to the system, that's the only way we could help Band-Aid to fix it for us. We can't keep crying that we come from slavery and they did us bad. My thing is, I keep telling people, we can't change the past, but we can change the future.
That's absolutely true. There's just so much accuracy in everything that you've spoken. And it makes me kind of pivot into my next question to you. I mean, you have been very successful at crossing over from being a rapper, hip
Yes,
hop artist, into being a business person, right?
yes,
And me watching young people up and coming, wanting to be in the rap game, wanting to be in the hip hop game, they don't understand how to make that transition and the importance of being a good business person, man or
yes,
woman, in addition to having that skill and craft. And so you've been able to do that, and you've been able to maintain your respect in both the rap game, right, as well as
yes,
the business community. So why
yes.
do you think you've been so successful at being able to manage both of those arenas?
Because I'm not afraid to admit that I don't know everything. I'm not afraid to fail. I learn from my failures. It's not a loss, it's a lesson. I don't mind putting experts on my team. I get rid of the people that are not pushing me. I only want people around me that's going to push me. I want people around me that's going to make me better. I'm not afraid to grow. There's no such thing as keeping it real. It's all about right and wrong and doing what's right and bettering yourself. Doing what's right for my family. Nobody's perfect. I know I'm a work in progress. It's all about getting better. It's almost like being an athlete. Consistency. You keep working on your craft. You keep doing what you need to do to get better. I tell people all the time, we all got 24 hours. If you just want to hang out and party and just chill, you're not going to have nothing. People that's making sacrifices, people that's growing, people that want to better themselves, they want better for their family. If you put the time in, you got to put the work in. I tell people all the time, you don't work, you don't eat. You can't cheat success. I don't care if you're an athlete, you're an entertainer, you're a businessman, you're a businesswoman. You can't cheat success. And a lot of people want that shortcut. There's no shortcut to success. It's all hard work and sacrifice. When they sleep, you up working, you up thinking, coming up with ideas, and that's how I was able to change it. Not being afraid to grow for the better. I think as a culture, we want to keep it real with the wrong people. What about keeping it real with your family, doing what's right for yourself? I think the difference with me is I put my trust and faith in God, not in man. So I know if I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing the godly thing, I know I'm going to keep growing. Nobody's perfect, and I know I'm a work in progress. So, but I try to at least surround myself around people that's going to tell me what's right and what's wrong instead of just yes people around me. And I try to be around people that's educated and smart, people that are thinkers. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
Right. And it's amazing to me that so much of what you say or are saying right now, I have been preaching this to friends, family, to my employees, that I don't hire yes men. I don't want you here just to tell me everything I say or every decision I make is correct.
Yes.
You want people to challenge your decision, to put you to the test, to make you think outside the box. And so it's so critical to do that. You have to have people around you that are smarter than you in at least some areas, right? You can't know everything about every topic. And I think that that's what I see. So many young people now feel like they know everything about every topic, and they are not willing to take the lessons that we've paid dues for, right? And use those to their full advantage. And so that's something I talk to my kids about, I talk to my employees about, and friends about. So it's just so much truth to in everything that you said there.
A lot of people think they're the boss just because they got the money. And people don't realize that's why it's corporations, it's companies, it's shareholders, it's investors. So I tell people all the time, if I'm going to make an investment into you, then you have to have skin in the game. You have to love what you're doing too. And I think that we make investments in the wrong people. Like I even had to cut family members off because they was going to mess my business up. And I said, I would rather give you something and get you out of my life than have you ruin my business, because this is the way we are building generational wealth. And you might not see it right now, the big picture, but if we keep doing the right thing, because you think about it, right now in this generation, which they calling it Generation Z, people don't look at positive things as being cool. But when you look at it in the long haul, doing the right thing, you're going to surpass anything that's overnight success, anything that's just there for the moment. When you have a real plan and a real plan of action, and that's what I was saying about us marching in the streets now, every time something happens, I tell my people, I'm down for my people. I'm going to be here for my people. But I'm going to be the one that we got to think what we do. I'm going to have a plan of action. I'm tired of marching in the streets. Martin Luther King paved the way for us for that. Now it's about economic empowerment. It's about us creating banks, African-American owned banks, us creating schools, libraries to educate the next generation, showing these athletes, not just be an athlete, learn the financial advisor position, what they do, educate yourself so now you can know what to do with your money. And they're not holding you hostage with your own money. And I think the education part is what's so important for me to be able to give our culture the blueprint, because nobody really want to do that for us. They'll show us how to get money, but they don't show us how to keep it, or how to maintain it, or how to spend it. Or how to invest. You know, we talk about stock market, we talk about we talk about cryptocurrency and all this stuff. But guess what? By the time our culture get into this, we just losing because we're not educated to it.
Right. That's correct. And one of the greatest parts of capitalism and entrepreneurship is that ability to create generational wealth. And so generational wealth is actually a relatively new concept within the African American community, especially. In my opinion, it's a significantly different concept than being rich. And so this concept of being able to give your kids and grandkids a head start in life, to me, is critically important. So how do you view that as part of your legacy, being able to build that generational wealth for your future generations?
Well, I mean, it's what I work for. It's what I get up for every morning and saying, I need to leave something here for my family to be able to pass down the way these other cultures been doing for so long. They've been passing down generational wealth. They descendants are running companies. They are running property, buildings. They are managing millions and billions of dollars of funds. And when you look at the African American culture, we're starting to wake up. We're starting to realize what trust funds, family funds, and also because we spend more money than any culture. We spend trillions of dollars, but we don't make it. But as a whole, our buying power and the way we spend, we should be controlling this country, but we're not. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from, that we're not taking the ownership of saying, how do I change that narrative? And that's preparing my family. You got to prepare your family. You got to start with education. Like, we have to start sending our kids to college instead of to prison, and having to come back and having seconds and third chances. I'm just blessed that I'm able to give my kids a different life, to where now somebody, all of them could say, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then we have the fund to fund their ideas, to fund what their dreams are. And that's how you build generational wealth. And they also be able to keep the business going that we have put together, that we planned for so many years of struggle and pain, but to have a family business. I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing to me that I realize, because I tell people all the time, product outweighs talent. If you look at it, I go back to Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. They made billions of dollars off people that look like us, thinking that we own that. Imagine being able to put money back into the community. My whole concept is, the more I make, the more I give. Right. With the wrap snacks, the wrap noodles, the Master P Crunch cereals, the Hootie Hoo cereals, the Master P Puffs, the Uncle P rice. It's all about giving our people opportunity, and to be able to run a family-owned business that will be around even when I'm not around.
Right. And so you mentioned a lot of your brands, and I'm interested, and I'm sure the listeners are interested to understand, when you talk about your wrap snacks and wrap noodle brands, your Uncle P Louisiana season that you launched. Yeah. I think you now have your own beverage line, right?
Yes. LA Great water, living authentically, get you really excited about today. That's what LA Great is. And the ice cream, LA Great ice cream. So my whole thing, what people tell me at first, P, why you launch so many products? I said, if you look at catalogs and all these companies, they got thousands of products. We just get caught up with just having one product and thinking that's what we need to be at. You can't build wealth and to pass it down from generation with just one product. Some people might, but my thing is diversifying our portfolio and being able to get product on these shelves with people that look like us, owned by us, and being able to give more opportunity to our culture and our people. So I'm diversifying my portfolio. I did the same thing in music. I wouldn't have been successful with one record. At one time, I had 22 albums on the Billboard charts at one time, top 200, which is incredible. And so I'm saying, imagine that in product, in food. When you look at all these other big companies, General Mills, and they got thousands of products. That's why I want to educate my culture and give them that blueprint to say, imagine if we start thinking bigger. How are we able to really build generational wealth?
Well said. Well, hang on, Percy. We have to stop right here. But coming up in the second part of my conversation with Percy Miller, we'll step into my world of real estate development and find out what Master P is doing in that space.
I'm constantly building with my family. We are buying properties, redeveloping properties, and we're just growing. I just think that's the most important thing. Once you learn the real estate business and you understand the whole wealth game, they've been doing it forever.
This has been The Sky's the Limit with Dee Brown. To find out more about Dee, go to dbrownceo.com. And to connect with the P3 Group, check out thep3groupinc.com. The Sky's the Limit is a production of Forbes Books. Forbes Books presents The Sky's the Limit with host Dee Brown, the president and CEO of the P3 Group, the nation's largest minority, public, private partnership real estate developer. Here's Dee.
Welcome back to the conclusion of my conversation with the legendary music mogul, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Percy Miller, aka Master P. Percy, in part one, we talked about some of the businesses you've been involved with. And I remember reading that you said you wanted to show the world that you can compete in the food and beverage space. What has been your biggest challenge, and what have you done that has allowed you to be so successful?
Yeah, well, in that food and beverage space, a lot of these major companies, they say they want diversity, and everything that's been going on, they say, well, we're going to give African Americans and Latinos opportunity to put their product on shelves. Now, the thing is, throughout these uncertain times, they have opened their doors and say, let's put a couple African Americans, Latino products in there, but they only put it in there as test orders. They didn't invest in it. And so I changed that to where I started challenging these companies, saying, if you're going to put our product in these stores, then give us an opportunity to win. Not just put African-American products in there to say that you have them in there in your diversity department. No, put them in there to actually sell. And I just started challenging these major companies. The greatest thing, a lot of them that really meant it, like the HEB in Texas, put our products in all their stores and made sure we had end caps and shelving space, and that's what makes the difference. Rosty's did the same thing, put our products in all their stores in Louisiana and made sure that we had end cap space, tools to market the product. So when customers come into the stores, and we was able to do that not only for our brands, but for hundreds of other brands, and showing people that look like us, this is what you need to ask for. And I think now they're seeing the buying power that we are bringing customers into the stores to buy our product. That's what I mean by the African American dollar. We actually spend more money than any culture. And this is changing the way these major grocery stores and supermarkets are looking at our brands and products now. So it's just a blessing to be able to use your voice, to be able to do that, not only for me, but for other minority-owned companies. So, and we're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep challenging these big companies. Just got the Master Crunch, the Uncle P cereals into Walmart, which will be in there in August. And then Kroger's took the Uncle P fish fry into Kroger's. So these doors are opening up to where we able to build economic empowerment.
Right. Now, you and your son Romeo recently opened a grocery store in New Orleans to provide fresh food and produce to an underserved community. Yes. This store really touched me because in my business, we develop projects for the government, and our primary focus is delivering our financial capabilities and technical skills to underserved communities and institutions. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about this venture and what motivated you guys to make this critical investment in a community that had been overlooked, obviously, for so long.
Yeah, well, we've been working in Gus Home. It has over 2,500 elderly seniors that rent from that facility, and they have nowhere to get their food. I mean, most of them are handicapped. And I've been in that community for over 21 years, giving back, me and my son Romeo. Like, that's my business partner, and we like, our motto is the more we make, the more we give. But even though we do a lot of stuff for the younger people, for Team Hope, the kids in the community, but we focus on the elderly because we feel like these are the people that paved the way for us in that community. I was raised in that community, and I know a lot of these elderly people. I know what they're going through. I know the love they have for me, and they know the love I have for them, that we just promised that we was going to do our part. And we've been working on the store for some years now, but to be able to actually put a small supermarket in there for them is incredible. And now we're looking at 6 other elderly homes around New Orleans, and hopefully we'll be able to spread around the U.S. We've been talking to elderly homes in Dallas and New York, so we are definitely growing. But that's the first P. Miller grocery store that we was able to put in our community. And I tell people all the time, if you make it out, don't forget where you come from, and definitely don't forget about the elderly, because they the
Right.
ones who paved the way for us. A lot of those people in there, they put straightening on me when I was going the wrong way. They was like, man,
Yeah.
look, you gonna be something. Get in that gym and play basketball. And I just love them, man. Whatever I could do to put a smile on their face and to feed them and protect them and make sure they're in a great environment. And that's what it's about. We've been there for 21 years giving back, and we're constantly growing, and that's what it's about. I mean, our
Yeah.
business is the more we make, the more we give. So we trying to do our part, and I love that my son is doing this with me, because this is 2 generations of giving.
Right, right. No, it's a great story, and it's absolutely beautiful when you can have your son or your children working within the business. My oldest son, he actually worked for my firm as well as our nonprofit foundation. So I definitely understand that. One of the things that I've read about is that you want to own your own HBCU. So I find it pretty intriguing, because helping HBCUs and students that attend these institutions has been one of my core business and philanthropic missions over the last 30 years. And as you know, historically Black colleges and universities have filled the educational gap for communities of color since before the Civil War. What is your inspiration behind wanting to own your own HBCU? And do you see this as being something that's going to be attainable in the near future?
Yeah, there's no limit. uh, my son is going. He's one of the top basketball players in the country. They just won the state championship. They ended up 5th in the country in high school basketball. My son, Percy Miller. He's
Yeah,
going to Tennessee State University, which he turned down USC, UCLA, Vanderbilt, LSU, some major schools. And when I went to visit HBCUs, even growing up as a kid, it was a lot of things I see that need to be fixed. But we have some of the best talent, some of the strongest minded people that go off and create opportunity, jobs, business, careers, because we struggle so hard. When you go to
yeah,
HBCU, you got to work 20 times as hard as somebody that goes to a major university. You got to fight for everything, even in sports. Um, and I said to myself, when are we going to fix the problem? When are we going to make sure these facilities are up to date? Even watching the NBA, and that's what my son decided to go there after watching the NBA and
yeah,
went to visit. He went and visit all these nice schools, but when you look at the HBCUs, they don't invest in the dormitories, they don't invest in the arenas. So if you make it out of there, you have a real chip on your shoulder. And I'm saying, how could we give our kids a fair start like everybody else? Imagine if we had top facility arenas to be able to put money back into our schools and fix our schools. And I said to myself, I need to get a facility like that one day and make it look just like going to University of Kentucky, Vanderbilt, any one of these top schools. How could we make HBCU look like that? And so that's my goal. My next step is to start an online HBCU and then turn it into an actual university and model it with the top of the line everything, to make sure our kids, when they go there, they feel just as good as going to a major university. And that's just investing into the campus. And I
right,
think
right.
investing into the right facilities, making sure that we have all the learning utilities that everybody else has. I think that's the start.
Man, it's amazing how much from a social responsibility and corporate philosophy perspective we have in common. One of the big pushes we're making within our organization is we're going into HBCUs and we're actually building and financing and taking the risk on these upgraded student housing facilities. My daughter, ironically, graduated from Tennessee State University in Nashville as well. So
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that campus. But we're doing this with HBCUs, minority serving institutions all over the country, as well as in the Caribbean islands. And so
Yes.
we recognize that HBCUs have been overlooked in a lot of
Yes.
instances. They've been exploited for resources. And so
Yes.
we think that the program that we're implementing will help bridge some of those financial gaps and some of those disparities within the HBCU community. And of course, we can't do it alone. So,
Yes.
people like yourself and other socially conscious individuals stepping up to the plate, doing their part to make the HBCUs a better community is what we're all about. We're sponsoring here recently. We just signed a deal to sponsor the Orange Blossom Classic over in Miami-Dade County, Florida.
Yes.
They between
Yeah.
FAMU and
Congrats on that.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so we're going to do a lot of scholarships, a lot of internships, things that we feel like go to the fabric of what is needed within these HBCU communities to help them thrive and be successful and have an equal seat at the table.
So I want to ask you a question. Why do you think the media don't promote that?
That's a good question. And I've been very, disheartened by that very point. And,
They promote everybody that go to jail, everybody get in trouble. How come they don't promote that? The stuff that you guys are doing, and it really is heartening because, we come so far, but we promote all the negative stuff. And that's my saying, is giving our kids a balance. Like,
right.
So they can see, we know that they're not going to turn the switch off for what they think they want, that we want, or they want us to see. But I'm saying,
right.
What about giving the kids, giving the families that want more, something better?
Something better.
Yeah, and why not bring attention and awareness to that?
And we're fighting hard. And I think that companies like mine that have the financial capabilities, yours, we just have to stay in there and fight the good fight. One of the things we're doing, just to the very point you're making, we're hosting a team dinner that Thursday night before the game with both DSU and FAMU. And so we're bringing in a bunch of friends like Emmett Smith and Omarosa and other lawyers and professionals, African-American professionals in law, business, former athletes turned business professionals. And what we're trying to do is exactly what you're saying. We're trying to show them that odds are you're not going to be a professional athlete. Odds are you're going to have a career, right? And here are some African Americans that are doing well, including, one that was a, NFL Hall of Famer, but realized he had to pivot to business, right, to continue to be successful. And we're trying to expose them to these individuals in this environment so that they can see something different.
So
than what
this what I want you to see what you just said. But think about how all these other cultures and major companies are linking up for the better. Why do we have to prove something to our culture, the people that are successful? But that's why I say the education part is so important, because once these guys get successful, they detach from reality. So they can't even see. I mean, I know guys that are investing their money into penny stocks because they just don't know. And I'm like, you done made all this money. Why is you investing in the penny stocks? But that's all it was taught. My thing is, why I love about the future, and I'm investing into the next generation, because we could grab them before they make it. So that's my thing, that if we're going to change this narrative, we have to invest in the future, because the older people, they have the mindset, they got the old frame of thinking, and that's why corporate America is losing. They got too many old heads sitting in these corporate chairman spots dictating what's going to happen, but they don't know they lose it because the generation is changing and they're not making the money they used to make because they stuck in their old ways. And that's why I know that we have to invest in the youth to grow, and we have to prepare them for success. The ones that are successful, they think I'm successful, I don't need to do that. But what about your kids? What about making a better way for them? And that's what we're looking at, and that's what this mission I'm on. It's not about what we have. All this stuff is temporary. We can't take this with us. In business, life go up and down. But I'm saying that we can make a difference and do something now, and do something that's right, that we can leave an imprint on this earth. And that's the difference. That's the Muhammad Ali's, and that's why we remember those people. That's why we champion them and we celebrate them. And I just think what we need to focus on now, even the banking system, if you want more people to put money in your banks, we have to educate the youth on financial literacy, knowing that how to save money, not just how to spend money and how to make money.
Right. That's right. You don't. It doesn't require any degree of intellectual capacity to
Yes.
spend money, right? So
Yes.
that's the part that comes easy, and that's the part we have to continue to train our employees, our kids, our family
Yeah.
members on building economic empowerment, economic
Yes.
uh, wealth within our communities by understanding that it's more important to learn how to save and invest than
Yeah.
it is to spend money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Now, we mentioned a lot of your different ventures, but I think we haven't touched on PM Properties and
Yeah.
MP Realty, which are two of your real estate businesses. And of course, I'm in the real estate development game, so I'm
Yeah.
interested to learn about what are you doing on the real estate front.
I'm constantly building with my family. We are buying properties, redeveloping properties, and we're just growing. I just think that's the most important thing. Once you learn the real estate business and you understand the whole wealth game, they've been doing it forever. And
Right.
so being able to find properties, fix it up, get into creating bigger developments. So I just tell anybody that's listening, start small. That's what I did. Start small and build. Don't just jump into, oh, I want
Right.
to buy these multi-million-dollar properties.
Now, for decades, you've been a pop culture icon, so much so that you were featured on Solange's 2016 album, A Seat at the Table. She has said that your influence was golden, and you've said you just wanted to see her win. Talk to me about your mindset as a mentor when it comes to helping others succeed.
My thing is to instill into us that we are kings and queens, and we got to come here with that mindset of we are royalty. And I use that in my business, and I instill that into everybody around me that don't be afraid to do what's right. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to be great. And I think on the mentorship side is I tell people all the time, you have to know what you love, be passionate about it. Don't do nothing for money. That's where you mess up at. Because everybody say, I meet people all the time, yeah, I'm gonna make millions of dollars. I'm gonna sell millions of records. I'm saying, what about just get in and grow at your pace? Every day is about getting better. Like I said, I do in business and life. I don't have to set that I need to make this amount. The only thing I set when I get up, I write down my goals and my dreams. I post it on the wall, and I always say, how can every day I could do something to get closer to that, even if it's something small.
Right.
And I think that's what we have to do. We have to not be afraid to fail. And I know a lot, man, what you mean, Phil? I'm just being honest with you. You might see me at the top, but you don't know how many times that I feel that something I had to figure something else out. I
Right.
had to figure out how to get better. Even in sports, when I played basketball, even in music, I wasn't the best. I had to get in the studio and work 10 times as hard as anybody else. Same thing in sports. Some people just naturally gifted. I had to get out there and actually put up 1,000 shots a day to be able to shoot the way that I could shoot. So the same thing in business. You got to put the time in when everybody else partying and playing, you making sacrifices. Now I don't want to go to the club today. I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna work on my business. I'm gonna invest in me. I think you are your best investment, and I think that's what people get caught up with, trying
Right.
to be something they not. I tell my kids, you don't have to be me. You just need to be the best you. And I think that's what I was able to give Solange on her project. You don't have to be Beyonce. You need to be the best Solange you could be.
Right. Very solid advice. And your evolution has been remarkable. And
Yes.
so we see you have so many different businesses and initiatives. But how about music? I have to admit, and I think I told you this before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm a diehard No Limit Records fan. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
that was my music, right? And
Yeah.
so does music still play a major part of your business portfolio and future business
Yes.
ventures?
On the music side, you can't be afraid to grow. I realize that I'm not the same person that I used to be, and that's good. Even my fans are growing with me. Think about it. Just
Yep.
like you said, you running business, you doing things. We are growing together.
Right.
And I love to see that when I see people say, P, man, we was about it. And look, man, I got this company now and my kids run this. And I'm like, wow, we come a long way. We done grew
Right.
together. It's amazing. And it's like being able to use your resources. And a lot of my resources used to be my fans. And now they
Yeah.
presidents of banks and have all these different investment firms and companies. I mean, to see that growth is incredible. One of the guys, just out of nowhere, this guy was the president of the bank, and he had a TRU tattoo. He showed, man, look, I'm a corporate man now, but I had a
Yeah.
TRU tattoo, and I'm like, wow. But guess what? We are not afraid to evolve and get better, and I
Right.
think that's what life is about. And music actually take you on that journey,
It
and
does.
don't be afraid to grow. And I didn't think a lot of the things I would be able to do in music that I was able to do. And now I think about a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. I can't talk about the stuff that I used to do because I'm not living like that. Now I'm living a whole different life, and I could use my music to even balance out as therapy for me to be able to help my fans and the people around me and even myself. So I'm just blessed to be able to still be relevant, still be able to go out and do a reunion tour with me and Snoop, Mystico and Mia Eggs and Silk the Shagger. Like, it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing.
Right. Well, I want to kind of wrap up the interview by just touching on news that was we heard early in the year, and I know you may not be able to talk about the deal specifically, but I know that you were very interested in buying Reebok, and
Yeah.
that particular deal intrigued me as well. And so, if you can't go into any detail about the particulars of that deal, but just in the context of the deal, what are some of your goals as it relates to future business acquisitions and ventures?
Well, that deal has taught me so much that we able to do this, and they've been doing this for years. I'm still got a seat at the table right now, so hopefully
Yeah.
we could run this home. But what I never imagined and what I learned, just like I said, we learning every day. How now with who I am, I could go to banks and I could buy multi-billion-dollar companies with debt. I never imagined that, and I want to be able to give that game to our culture
Yeah.
as I go through this process. It's incredible, man. And those secrets, they've been doing this for years. We just been
Right.
thinking these other cultures have so much money, but they understand the knowledge and the education and the wisdom part that we just have no clue. So to be able to buy a company on its debt and go get it financed through a banking system, man.
It's amazing, man. It's I think we both have come a long ways when I look
Yes,
at where you come from and me coming from the
yes,
rural Mississippi Delta community where we weren't exposed to the type of opportunities that we have now. For me to actually own fire stations and police stations and
yes.
courthouses and those sorts of facilities, when I never imagined as a kid growing up that these type of assets could be under private ownership or private development, right? And being able to go to the capital markets and create municipal bonds and issue municipal debt and have unlimited capacity it's an amazing thing that we've embarked upon.
We have to keep studying and educating ourselves. I'm gonna tell you the one of the most valuable tools that I got a chance to witness and see was Reginald Lewis. What he done in the 1960s and 70s, and
Yeah,
being probably one of the first billionaires that I noticed, and what he was able to do with that grocery store system, man, is incredible. In his book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? I mean, I start looking at that and I start realizing what he meant. Like, why should they only be billionaires? Why? How come we can't get in that club? But it's
right.
going to take hard work. We'll be able to feed more families. We'll be able to take care of more communities. But we don't think that we could attain that type of wealth. And like you say, we have to do more networking with us. We have to put more trust and faith in us. And we have to create dream teams like they are creating.
Right. That's I could not have said it better. Those of us who have the intellect, the financial capacity, we have to find ways for us to work together to be able to further this
Yeah.
overall mission that we have in terms of having greater access for people of color, greater educational and entrepreneurship type opportunities. So there's just so much we can do. We're stronger together. And I think that you've been a very, very good example of what that type of leadership and that type of mentality can do within an African-American owned organization. So I appreciate everything that you've done, from the music that brought me through the 90s and made me feel good, right, to watching you make that transition to corporate America and really play at the highest level, always having a seat at the table. I tell people all the time, if they don't have a seat for you, bring one with you, right? So, man, it's been a great honor and pleasure to have you on my podcast. I look forward to us maybe perhaps connecting at some point, outside of this, and just continue to further the dialogue. I think we have a lot in common, and so much we can do to help our community together.
Thank you, my brother.
And that's it for this episode of The Sky's the Limit. If you enjoy the show, make sure you take a second to subscribe so that you automatically get my new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I would love if you leave us a review so more folks like yourself can discover the show. I'll see you next time.
This has been The Sky's the Limit with Dee Brown. To find out more about Dee, go to dbrownceo.com. And to connect with the P3 Group, check out thep3groupinc.com. The Sky's the Limit is a production of Forbes Books.